Hey, it's that card girl, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to upgrade a One Piece deck and how to play the card game itself. So in our deck videos so far, we've given you an overview of the cards included in the decks, and then went over the cards you can use to upgrade your deck. A lot of upgrading a deck is based on personal preference. You get to tailor your choices to the playstyle you're looking for, but how exactly do you go about upgrading the deck itself? That's part of what we're hoping to show you in today's video. We're going to be using the Gear 5 Luffy Starter Deck 21 for this video, but you of course can use whatever leader you like. So you're going to be starting off with your 1 leader, 10 Dawn cards, and the 50 card deck. We're going to set our leader and Dawn cards aside because those are going to stay the same. Your first big step in upgrading your deck is, well, it's going to be to get a second deck, because you're most likely going to be needing a second set of the cards you only get 2 of. An important note though, you can only have 4 copies of card in your deck. You can have as many with the same name as you want, so you could build a whole deck of Luffys, I'm sure, but only 4 of each card number, which is found in the bottom right corner of the card. That's why when they reprint the cards, the card number stays the same. You're also going to want to have whatever other cards you're going to add in as well. Upgrading the deck is as simple as taking out the cards you don't want and putting in the cards you do want. Hans and I found the easiest way to make sure you end up with the right number of cards in your deck at the end of the whole process is to sleeve up your starter deck. Go through the cards and unsleeve the ones you're taking out. Then put the cards you're adding in into the sleeves as you go. If you have extra sleeves, you don't have enough cards in your deck. If you run out of sleeves, you have too many cards that you wanted to add to your deck. Don't get rid of those extras though. You'll want to play a game or two and make sure the deck works for you and you don't want to switch out any cards. So how do you play the game? The One Piece card game does have a little animated video that goes over how to play. It's how Hans and I started to learn. But you're already here, so let's get to teaching. Fun fact first though, creating videos like our Decksplanation videos and this video is why we started this channel in the first place. We wanted to make TCGs more beginner friendly. Some gameplay videos assume you know all the ins and outs of playing already. We wanted our videos to be a bit more unassuming. We're hoping this video will answer any of the questions we've not answered yet about different things cards can do and how to use them. If not though, please feel free to comment and ask. We'll be more than happy to try to help. Now, let's get back on track. The first thing you're going to do is get your leader in place and your Dawn cards in place. Then you shuffle your deck and get it in place as well. Draw your starting 5 card hand and take a look at it. Like your hand? Great! You can move on to the next step. But say you didn't shuffle good enough, or all your cards are too high of a cost and you aren't going to be able to get anything on the board for a few turns. That's where the mulligan option comes in. You can put your hand back in your deck, shuffle it again, and then redraw your 5 card hand. You can only do this once though. After you have your hand all set, you're going to make your life pile. Your leader card tells you how many life you get towards the bottom right corner. A good rule of thumb though is single color leaders give you 5 life and leaders with 2 colors give you 4 life. Our leader gives us 5 life, so we'll take the top 5 cards from our deck and set them in the designated life area. The top card from your deck will be the bottom card of your life. Now we're ready to start playing. To decide who goes first, you can flip a coin, roll a die, play rock, paper, scissors, arm wrestle, however you decide. Whoever wins gets to pick if they want to go first or second. Now, each turn has 5 phases that happen in the same order every time. You have your refresh phase, draw phase, dawn phase, main phase, and then the end phase. Neither player will need to refresh on their first turn. If you're going first, like we're going to say Hans is, you do not draw a card, and you get 1 dawn card for your first turn. If you're going second, you do get to draw a card, and you will get 2 dawn cards. Neither player can attack on their first turn, so we'll move on to the main phase. There's 4 things you can do during your main phase in any order and as many times as you want. You can play a card, attach Dawn, use a card's effect, and attack, which is frequently referred to as swinging. For the first turn, Hans is going to play his 1-cost Jewelry Bonnie. Wait Hans, don't forget to rest your Dawn to player. Resting a card is as simple as just turning it sideways. Now, some cards have on-play effects. Let's see what this card does. She needs 2 Dawn cards attached to get her effect, which is triggered when she's KO'd. A card is KO'd when it loses the battle, or if the effect removing it from the board says KO. Since we've already rested our Dawn, and there was only one Dawn since Hans went first, we don't have any Dawn to attach to her or to attach to our leader card to get either of their effects. So we don't have any cards effects to do this turn. Since we can't attack on our first turn, and you can't attack with a card on the turn it's played unless it has Rush, it looks like it's on to the end phase, which is just a fancy way of saying any effects that are for during this turn are now no longer active. So it would now be Hans' opponent's turn. Let's move on to Hans' second turn. First thing he's going to do is refresh, which means any Dawn cards on the field will go back to the cost area and all rested cards become active again. Next, he'll draw a card. Hans drew the 2-cost Sanji. This card does have an on-play effect, but it'd be smart to wait to play it because when he plays Sanji, he can pick a Straw Hat Crew type character that has 6k power or more, and then if he attacks with that character during this turn, his opponent can't use a blocker. He doesn't have any 6k power Straw Hat Crew types, so he wouldn't be able to take advantage of the on-play effect. An on-play effect is basically something that just happens when you play the card. You do have to do the on-play effect if it has one. The only time you can avoid doing an on-play effect is if it has an additional cost. You can choose not to pay that cost to avoid the on-play effect, although most of the time you're going to want your on-play effect, like in this instance. Before Hans can even get to playing a card though, he has to do his Dawn phase. During the Dawn phase, he'll add 2 Dawn cards to his cost area, giving him a total of 3 Dawn. Except for the player going first's first turn, you'll always add 2 Dawn cards during your Dawn phase. Once you've got your 10 Dawn cards drawn, you'll bypass this phase unless you've returned Dawn to your Dawn deck and then have more Dawn cards to draw. On to the main phase. Looks like Hans is resting 2 Dawn to play the 2-cost Sentomaru. This card is a blocker, which means that if his opponent attacks, he can rest it and have this card the focus of the attack instead. It has 2000 power, which means it most likely won't be sticking around after blocking. Now Hans is attached a Dawn to his leader, which makes his leader's power now 6k, and will get him his leader's effect. Every Dawn card you attach to a card increases that card's power by 1000 during your turn. With this leader once per turn during your main phase, which is the phase we're in now, having an attached Dawn lets you be able to move up to 2 rested Dawn cards to one character. Rested Dawn cards are always going to be found in your cost area. If a Dawn is attached to your leader or a character, it is still considered to be an active Dawn card. You can't move it, except in certain circumstances. The 2 Dawn Hans used to pay the cost to play the blocker Sentomaru, though, are rested, so he can move them over to his Jewelry Bonnie. Hans turned the Dawn card under his leader sideways to show that his leader effect has been used since it's a once per turn use. That Dawn is still considered active though. This makes it to where Jewelry Bonnie has 5k power since she gets an additional 1000 power for each of the Dawn attached. And now, since there's 2 Dawn attached, her effect of getting to draw a card when she's KO'd is now active. When a card says Dawn times a number, that means you need that many Dawn attached to this card to get that effect. Hans decided since she has 5000 power, he's going to swing at his opponent's leader. Now, since Hans is attacking with Jewelry Bonnie, he's rested her. If the power of the attacking card is the same as or higher than the card it's attacking, that card wins the battle. So Hans swinging with his 5k Jewelry Bonnie at his opponent's 5k power leader would mean that he would win the battle. If you swing at a character, whichever character has the lower power will be KO'd. If you're swinging at an opponent's leader and you win the battle, they will draw one of their light cards. However, it seems like Hans' opponent decided to take advantage of one of their card's counters that's shown sideways on the card. A 1k counter would make their leader have 6k power just for that battle. When you use a character's counter, it adds that power to the card you choose. In this instance, it would be the opponent's leader. And that card whose counter was used will go to the trash. You would not get any of that card's effects. So you're pretty much sacrificing a card from your hand to protect the card in play. It's a bit confusing explaining this concept when it's not Hans doing it, so I'm pretty certain he's going to show us how it works later. Now, you can only attack characters of your opponents if they are rested unless otherwise specified. You can attack their leader no matter if they are rested or not unless the card's effect prevents that. Now, if your opponent swings at a card that has Dawn attached to it and that character of yours is KO'd by that attack, the Dawn will return to the cost area rested. Or, if you swing at your opponent and lose the battle, that same thing happens. Hans will get to draw a card since his jewelry Bonnie was KO'd with the Dawn attached activating her effect. But let's get to the end of the game and see how it's looking for Hans. It looks like Hans has been busy. He's down to just one life card now, and it's his opponent's turn. But let's take a quick peek at what he's done first. He has this stage card, Thousand Sunny played and rested. A stage card is kind of an ongoing support card. They're denoted by a blue border around the card, and they say stage above the name where other cards say leader, character, or event. This stage card can be used during your main phase. The cost is in bold and just has you rest the stage card. You cannot attack your opponent's stage card. The only way to remove an opponent's stage card is to play a card that specifically says it targets your opponent's stage card. You can have a few different stage cards in your deck if you want, and if you want to play a different one, you can. But it will remove your current stage card because each player can only have one stage card in play. Since Hans rested his stage card, it let him give one of his Straw Hat Crew type characters a Dawn card he had already given. The specific phrasing is important because it doesn't say a rested Dawn, it's a given Dawn. This lets you move a Dawn from one character to another. Also, if you were curious, you can get this stage card's effect on the turn you play it. He has his 4-cost Zoro out with 2 Dawn cards attached, which means it got rushed, letting him swing with it the turn it was played, with 7,000 power since it had 2 Dawn attached. Interesting note though about its KO effect. If his opponent swings at that card and KOs it, Hans would get to play a 6k power or less red character, but he could not play his 5-cost 6k power Zoro, even if he had another one in his hand, because although it's a different card, it is still a Roronoa Zoro. When a card has a character's name in brackets, it isn't specifically talking about that card. It is referring to any card with the same character name. It looks like Hans is also swung with his character Luffy, so he would have been able to get its when attacking effect since he did attack with it. Now his opponent is swinging at his leader, so he's going to activate his blocker. Since his blocker only has 2,000 power, it loses the battle and goes to the trash. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to be enough though, because his opponent is swinging at his leader again, this time with 6,000 power. Hans is finally going to show us how those counter cards work from the player's side. He has to get his leader to 7,000 power to keep from taking a hit to his life. So he's going to use his Nico Robin and Roronoa Zora's counters. Each of them have a 1k counter, so by putting both of them in his trash, he can bring his leader up to 7k power for this battle. That's one more hit avoided. His opponent has swung once more though, and there is no way for him to avoid taking that hit. Go ahead and draw that life card, Hans. Hopefully it has a trigger that can save you. Well, Gum Gum Dawn Whip does have a trigger, so Hans has 2 options here. He can put the card in his hand, which is what you have to do if there's no trigger. Or, since this card has a trigger, he can choose to do that instead. So in this case, Hans could KO an opponent's character that has 4k power or less. If you choose to use the card's trigger, you'll do what it says and then trash that card unless the trigger says otherwise. But it doesn't look like even with that it's going to be enough. His opponent swings once more, and with that, Hans just lost since his leader took a hit and he had no life cards left. Now, if Hans had managed his Dawn cards a bit better, sorry Hans, he might have had a chance because I see that 1-cost event card in his hand. Let's take a look at it real quick and see if it could have saved him. Yep, that's what I thought. This event can be played either during your main phase or you can use it as a counter. If Hans had saved 1 Dawn during his last turn, he could have used it to play this counter and given his leader an additional 4k power for the battle. Better luck next time, Hans. But it really goes to show that it takes a few times playing with a new deck to get the hang of how it all works. I hope this helped you understand a bit more how to play the One Piece card game. It's a fun TCG that Hans and I both really enjoy. As always, don't forget we put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with shorts on Sundays. We focus mainly on One Piece, Pokemon, and Lorcana, and we'll be adding in the new Gundam card game soon. Follow us over on Instagram at thatcardgirl.tcg. There's a link for it in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell your favorite yapper about us. That Card Girl, finally out.